What is up, Earthlings? Today we're going to be talking about this camera. This is the Panasonic GX800, and I made a video about this where I showed you some clips, my expectations, just a sort of, first impression kind of a video. And I've had this for a couple of months. And as the title mentions, this is the saddest camera ever made. It's so sad. I don't even know where to start. I'm gonna show you. Just give me a minute. So I'm shooting this whole thing with the Panasonic GH5. Now it's a much more expensive camera. And I used to shoot on this camera. This is the Panasonic G7. And believe it or not, the sensor is pretty much identical on all of these cameras. I mean, sure, there are some tweaks and updates, but it's basically the same image quality, okay? So this camera, it has amazing image quality, at least if you are like me and you like the whole Micro Four Thirds sensor image quality. I mean, I think this image quality is just fantastic. It's a bit of a noisy image compared to Sony cameras, but you know what? You can just get a fast lens and you're fine. So why is this such a sad camera? Well, like, the image quality is nothing. Build quality. This is so much better than the Panasonic G7. I mean, there are so many scratches here, and I haven't even dropped it. I've just put it on like rocks and stuff, but it gets dents and scuffs, like really bad plastic. I'm not the only person who's complained about the build quality on this thing, but image quality, this thing was great. And that's why I still have it. I haven't sold it or given it away. I love using this camera still to this day. It's lightweight, compact, but I wanted something even more compact, and that's why I got the GX800. And again, sensor, really good 4K image quality, picture quality. Okay, for some people, the Panasonic Micro Four Thirds camera, they're never gonna be making good enough pictures, but for me, it's still a lot better than my iPhone, for instance. So again, image quality, very good. And the settings on this thing, very nice. I mean, it doesn't have anything like, S-Log, V-Log, stuff like that. But you've got lots of profiles, and it's very easy to set your own image profiles. You can set white balance and stuff like that. So again, great image quality, great build quality, system great. I like the flip out screen. It's not flip out on the side, it's flip on top. I don't know how you call it, but this is really good. It's much better than the Sony cameras. This is very nice. Very compact, very light. Love the form factor. This is the kind of camera you want to carry with you at all times because it's small, it's compact. But then comes the problems. Okay, so it's so sad because, I mean, sometimes cameras are just limited because of hardware stuff, like, for example, it does not have a headphone jack or, microphone input. You can't plug in a microphone on this thing. I knew that, before I bought it, obviously, but that's like a hardware issue. Like, you can't fix it. It is what it is. But this is the sad part, and this is the thing that breaks everything about this camera. It's the manual settings. For some reason, which I'll get into in a moment, my theories on it, this camera has only got manual settings for photos. But when you start to shoot video, for some strange reason, you can only shoot in auto. Yeah, auto mode only. Like, you can't even select ISO, shutter speed, anything like that, which you can normally on, mirrorless cameras and these DSLRs. Obviously, you can do it on the G7, on my GH5, but on the GX800, Nope. You simply flat out can't. And I have a little theory about this. And it's basically this. If you have the same sensor on this thing that you have on more expensive cameras, why would people buy the more expensive cameras if you can get the same image quality on this tiny little camera? That's my theory. I basically think that the only reason they disabled the manual mode on this thing is so they could sell more cameras. Which is sad. And that's why this video is called Saddest Camera on the Planet. Because this camera could have been so wonderful, even without the mic input. You know, I could even live without that. Like, if you're shooting outside, I don't really usually need a good microphone. On the inside, like here, I could just, you know, record the audio externally. It would have been really sweet to have this camera with me at all times to shoot videos. But the limitations of having only auto mode, it's like when you have apps on your iPhone where you can manually, you know, set your shutter speed and ISO, it just becomes so sad when you can't do it on this camera, because the potential on this camera is wonderful. You just can't utilize it. Like, I wish that people were more into hacking firmwares on these things. Like, you know, you can do it on an iPhone or an Android, but these cameras, people just don't seem to waste their times doing that. I'm thinking like, you know, Magic Lantern on the Canon cameras. Like, it would be great if they can like find a way to, you know, release the manual settings on this thing, because this would have been such a great deal. And so it's sad, you know, I don't want to part with this thing because, again, the potential on this thing is just amazing. And I don't know what to do with it. Like, it's so limiting to not have those manual settings. It's good for taking, you know, pictures and stuff like that. I suppose if you're gonna just shoot some B-roll, but again, you know, as someone who likes to shoot really nice videos, having this limitation is just annoying, you know? Like, I think that's the worst part. I'm just annoyed that I could, but I can't, you know? And that's, yeah, so that's why I can't recommend this camera for people like myself. But it's probably a good start for someone who's just starting with cameras, because I remember when I first had like my first Canon camera, I didn't know anything about shutter speed and ISO and stuff like that, and I just shot on auto all the time, and I was always surprised when the image quality, you know, could change so much depending on where you would shoot it. Now I like to have that control, and I know how to use my settings on my more expensive cameras. But this could actually be a really good, sweet deal for somebody who's new. And let's face it, we're all newbies at one point or another. So I guess you could say that I wish I had this camera when I started out. And then when I would have learned that I would like to manually adjust stuff, then would be a natural step to move from this camera to a more expensive one. Because I never recommend, you know, beginners to get like really expensive cameras. It's usually a waste of money, because by the time people are good at using their cameras, the technology and image quality on that camera is just subpar already. So yeah, too bad, Panasonic, too bad. But I get it. I get why Panasonic did it. It's not like they're rotten scoundrels. Like, they're not the only company who does this. Like, Apple does something similar. Canon does something similar. So it's just sad that there's so much potential in this thing. I'm not going to repeat that anymore. Okay, that's all I had for today. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.